So what's up, Carl? Thanks a million for coming on.
How's it going? You okay? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, good, good. So you were saying there, I know we were speaking just before I started recording that about like COVID and some of the restrictions. Did I see that am I right in saying in the UK that there's no indoor team sports, but Taekwondo doesn't come in under that, does it?
Yeah, so because we're not classed as a team sport, they're classing as sport as like competitive. So we're not competing against each other. We're training, a bit like gym. Gyms haven't been restricted to that extent. You've got your own space, 2 meters squared. You stay within your area. No pad work, no sparring. The lucky thing for Taekwondo is that you do have a lot of technical work you can work on to fill out session upon session. You can go through the patterns. You can work on different types of blocks, flying kicks on the spot, plyometric work, fitness on the spot. I've not struggled to fill my time of teaching. Again, it's back to normality of you're looking at your time and you think, oh, I've only got 10 minutes left. I haven't done this and this yet. So we're okay. I do worry how like judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu are going to cope with the restrictions that have continued. Because I think like kickboxing essentially as well, there's a lot of fitness you can do on the spot, but I think some martial arts, they need that close quarter contact. And so we're okay, we're allowed. The main thing is that we are able to meet up still and train in small contained groups. So keeping the spirits going, that's what we need.
Yeah, but here in Ireland, like we've been back full contact training since end of June.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. No, like we didn't go straight back into it. We left it a few weeks where it was like that technical, it was hitting pads and like we slowly introduced it to where we were back on the sparring. But then there was more restrictions. We were allowed to train indoors with pods of 10. But then about 4 weeks ago now, I think it is, that got reduced. You had to have pods of 6, which you can still do everything. But like, because now you have to like, the space is limited more because you need more pods because you have fewer people. You can't really spar too freely because the space is restricted. But thankfully, we have most of the country. Dublin has changed now. Dublin, they can't. A lot of the clubs there have been shut down again, so they can't train. But like most of the country are back, and if you can get back into your hall, like you said already, like before we even recorded, like if you can get into your hall or if you have a full-time place, like you can kind of get back to some bit of normality. Like the pods, they're not ideal, but it's just something you'll work around and work with if it means you can have your doors open and the club training.
Absolutely. Yeah, something's better than nothing, I guess. I think in Scotland and Wales, under 10s are allowed to do normal training, normal Taekwondo, but with England and Northern Ireland, we haven't been given the go-ahead yet. So we're still stepping on the air of caution, no sparring, just technical work. That's all. But it's, again, comparing it to the Zoom sessions, which were starting to dwindle, I think having some form of physical, I'll take this over the Zoom sessions any day. I'll take training in physical form with one person than training like Zoom all the time. So we'll get there. We'll get there eventually, but just small steps. Every 3 weeks, we're like, what next? What now? So it's crazy times, but we're in it together, so that's the main thing. We'll get through it, and the attitude and like the character shown by like especially the martial arts industry, of even like all the instructors you see banded together, being supportive and sending positive like vibes and feedback to people to keep their spirits going, because we're definitely up against it at the minute, and the last 6 months have been very tough, but we've survived the first 6 months. And it looks like we're going to survive the next 6 months, so we'll be fine. It'll be good before we know it.
And that was the thing, like, and it's a little bit frustrating. Like, I know all sports have been hit, but when you're seeing like the outdoor sports and you see some sports playing and they can't have spectators, but like indoor sports where you mightn't even be able to just do your sport, like even train, never mind worry about competitive or anything like that, and you see the outdoor sports complain about spectators. Like, look, you need to put it into perspective. You're training, you're actually able to compete. There's some sports that you can't even just train, it's
no, it's tough, but no, these things are meant to be tested us, I guess, so we'll ride the storm out. We'll be fine. But I've never thought I'd say this, but I can't wait to get kicked in the face. I can't wait.
Yeah, I felt that, yeah. I was saying that to a couple of people, that I was missing hitting people, but I was missing getting hit as well. So
No,
that need to get back to.
you can go out there, you can bump someone if you wanted to, but get a nice pad around the face from a nice reverse turning kick. There's something sweet about that. And
Yeah.
I'll probably get it. I'll go, oh, take me back to lockdown. Take me back. But no, I just want to get sparring again. And so do so many students. So we just hope that, like I say, if they lift the restrictions, I mean, we're looking at dates for like European Championships next year. And you can't just be prepared overnight. You need months and months of training. So even if they don't lift the restrictions until February time, let's say, that's a short time to be prepared to go and compete internationally. If you've got other countries that aren't as restricted, then, you know, some countries are already higher standard than like England, shall we say, from let's call it our side, that we need as much training as possible to so have these restrictions on us are not helpful. So we just need to get back to it, but I'm sure we will soon.
Yeah. So like, just to take it back, like where did the martial arts journey start for you? How did you get involved in Taekwondo? What got you started?
So it was my dad that got me into it. I had very little choice on the matter. Luckily, my dad was very supportive in me just starting something. I mean, I was 6.5, maybe 7 years old. I was small, skinny, like big, thick glasses, formidable bowl cut. I had nothing about me at all. I had zero confidence. And I guess my dad could see that in me. My brother was doing very, very well in football. He was signed at a young age for a professional football club. And I was just his little brother that didn't do anything. So my dad wanted me to get into martial art. He knew the local instructor. Grandmaster Gary Miller was my instructor. And he just took me along. And then I just kept showing up. I guess I was young. And there have been times where I said, I don't want to go training today. And I remember him saying, get in the car, you go and training. And I think that was very important for me to keep it going, because you do see parents say, oh, he doesn't want to come anymore, and then they just stop coming. But of course, if a child's going to want to sit at home and play computer games, you've got to drag them up to training. So just started at a young age. And then I think what kept me into it, I've like listened to a couple of these to see what people were into. So you're a Power Ranger fan, so was I. But I still am to this day. I was a wrestling fan, like WWE, and I just used to love that. So I just thought I was a wrestler, going along there to kick and punch things, and thought I'd be a wrestler one day. And I just loved it. So that's what kept me into it. That and Power Rangers too. But yeah, so I started young and just so I've been training. So I'm 33 now. So I've been doing it for over 25 years. So it just kept showing up essentially. So I'm very grateful to my dad that he just kept me going, because I think you do need that support to, on those days where you don't want to go training, you need that one person, if you're younger, to say you haven't got a choice, you're going training. So to have supportive parents is a massive key factor in anyone to be successful in anything at a young age. So to have someone on side was key to me. Was key to me to keep going.
Yeah, I think I was the same. I was about blue belt. There was a kind of a time where it was only maybe a week or two where I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to go. I think it was in that kind of time just as you go back to school, and like in the evenings you were going out with because you weren't getting much homework when you just go back, so you're going out with your friends, and then like I wanted to stay out playing with my friends. And like, I was like, you know, you're getting called in, you have to go to Taekwondo. You're like, do I have to go? I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And then they're like, no, you're going. And it's that kind of thing. In a couple of weeks, you won't be going out after school. It's going to be dark. You're going to be doing homework. So you're getting in, you're going back to Taekwondo, and that's it. And like, but when I went, like when I was there, it was like, oh, I'm delighted I'm here. Like, and like, it's that thing like, if they had went, oh, yeah, that's grand. Are you bored of it, or you don't? Yeah, that's grand. It's like, I could have stopped there, like, but you just push. No, you're going. Tough shit. And away you go.
Yeah,
you need that difference.
Absolutely, and it's difficult. Like I say, I teach my wife and my stepdaughter, but I'm very much the opposite to that. And like, they seem to want to come train. I've never asked them like, you come and train us tonight. We either get changed, and they're getting changed. They come with us. But it's difficult if I had like my own child. You you guess they're going to come along training with you because they've got no choice because we're all going. But if I guess it's that fine balance of saying, yeah, you're coming, but not being too pushy. So I think and I learned a lot from my dad how to do it correctly. But I think it's very important to be encouraging essentially on that front. So yeah, I have a lot to be thankful for, especially as well when I was younger. Well, could argue now as well, I wasn't that great. My instructor would say it as well openly to people who were trying to praise me, saying, "Oh, that was great competition." And he'd be like, "Yeah, but he wasn't very good when he was younger, and I was like rubbish." Like, luckily, I used to have footage of some competitions I did when I was like green or blue belt, and I used to watch back all my performances, even like when I was like 12, 13 years old. My dad had his video recorder, and in the car on the way home, I'd watch, like, win or lose, like how I got on. And at the time, you don't realise what technical work I guess you're doing. But as I got older, I watched it back, and I was like a green belt, and I was like, what was I doing that for? And I was woeful. But luckily, that footage is gone because, and I don't mind embarrassing my brother with this, he taped over my entire collection of sparring when I was younger, over with like the Channel 4 series of Desperate Housewives. He just taped it over. Just all gone. So I got no footage of me from the age of 14 and down. But luckily, that's a good thing because I was not very good, which is part of I guess my strength as an instructor, that when you see people who can't, I have like so much patience. I will stand and tell someone 1,000 times how to do it, just because that's what they might need, and it doesn't bother me, just because I was that person who just couldn't do it, and my instructor probably told me 1,000 times how to do it, and eventually it clicked. So you all go on your journey for a reason, and my journey was start young, be rubbish, get a bit older, still be a little bit rubbish, and then just something clicks when you're about sort of 15, 16, where you start getting bored of losing, I guess, and you put the actual effort in that's required.
You start to maybe see that it's winning mightn't be too far away with just the right approach, the right application.
Yeah.
Winning mightn't be too far away.
Yes. So yeah, it took an awful lot of losses to learn how to win, but I mean, that's what you need. You need those losses. You need to learn from those. You either learn, or you either win, or you learn. You never lose. That's the way I like to think about it. So, but yeah, so that's what I mean. For me, I'll be honest. When I was probably I got my black belt when I was 15, just turned 15, and there was selections for the World Championships, and at this time there was only one, like ITF we call it, only one. So the selections were big, you know. There's a lot of people going for the team, and I was only a red belt, so I remember thinking, like, my black belt grading was in September. The World Championships in Puerto Rico, 2002, were in December. So I was like, I'll go along for selections, but I ain't got a chance. And then on the third, I did think I had a chance as well, because on the first squad training session with Master Leah, I didn't finish it. I was upstairs. It was sick. It was too hard for me. So I didn't finish it. I was like, fell asleep upstairs, and I was like, this ain't for me. And then again, just that sort of mindset of like, no, don't let this beat you. Went back and then just tried my best. And I didn't think that I had it in me, but Master Leah must have seen something and selected me, not only just to be in a team, but I wasn't even a sub. I was like in the team, and there was people that didn't get selected that I was thinking they must be quite surprised that I got in. So I was that sort of person who you didn't think would get the spot. But I've got an awful lot to thank Master Leah for that, because he maybe either saw something in me or took a chance on me. And I competed in 2002, and I've pretty much competed every year since, and it's 2020. So you must have seen something maybe. But yes, I've got a very awful lot to be thankful to him for that, taking a chance on me.
Yeah, you can see that a lot. It happens like that, especially, you know, like I know, like on our side, that you can have three juniors, and oftentimes the third junior you might look at, they're not going to win. Like on their first time being selected, like this person isn't going to win this time, first time going away as a kind of fill in the third spot. But give it a year, 2 years of experience in the championships, experience in all the training that you need that goes with it. Then they could be winning. 2 years time, you could be looking to stand on the top step of the podium. So sometimes that developmental stuff, you know, that if you just look and go, they're not going to win in this one championships, like then there's no point in selecting them. But you know, if you give them time, develop, there's a chance they might do something.
Yeah, and that's why I think like an eye of a coach. And again, that's why I think Master Lee is probably still regarded as one of the best coaches in the world. And I've just seen he's been asked to go back to coach the England team. And a message to any of the England competitors now, you have hands down one of the best coaches on the setup. They are very lucky because he knows competitors. And I think I've learned an awful lot from him of how to like read competitors and be a people person to each individual person rather than coaching in a certain way. You've got to coach individual people in certain ways to get the best out of them. And I think some coaches struggle with that. I think coaches sometimes go, this is how I teach, like it or lump it. But I think Master Lee was very much, I know he coached me a little bit different to maybe he coached the captain. He was a little bit more like gentle with his approach to me to get the best out of me. So he's a very high-class coach that I tried to take an awful lot from, I think, to teach my classes, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. And would you have been more patterns than sparring as a kid? And
so
has that changed over time?
So I think I was more sparring when I was younger. And then when I got my black belt, I just seemed to fall into patterns quite a lot. And I kept winning. My first junior black belt national championships when I was just turned 15. I was thrown in at the deep end on the black belt level because I got my black belt in and then got selected for the world in December. But there was a national championships in between, so that was my first championships as a black belt. My second was the world championships. So I won the national in the patterns and the sparring. But after that, from 13 all the way to 17, I didn't lose a pattern match for years, just kept winning the patterns. So I sort of maybe thought, well, maybe I'm more suited to the patterns, but then I was also winning nationals at the sparring as well. So I would struggle. I struggle to say I am one or the other, but at the moment I'm 3-time European champion in patterns. Won it 2009, 2017, and 2019, and I've managed to win a bronze in sparring on a few occasions as well on the world and European. So I've never won the gold at the internationals, but I've won a selection of bronze and silvers individually in the sparring. I think I'm sort of more well known for my patterns, but then there's videos of me on YouTube that I use for my advertisement, and people are messaging me like about the sparring as well. So I'm known for both, but I think I get more nervous for the patterns. When it's the sparring, you know, so many uncontrollable factors in the sparring. You might kick as quick as you can, but your opponent might just be that little bit quicker, and there's nothing you can do. But with the patterns, it's more your control, so the pressure's on you, and if you mess up, it's 100% you. You can't blame anything, can't blame anyone. I like to class myself as a bit of an all-rounder, but I think patterns is probably what I enjoy the most in terms of competing and training. Luckily, with what we're restricted to at the moment, like I could teach 5 hours a day, every day, patterns if I was asked to. But then I've hosted a few sparring workshops where people come and I tell people how to spar. I've never done a patterns one. I've done sparring workshops. So people come to me also to learn from me some sparring tips and tricks. I would love to do a combined one, but I think there's time and effort with everything. And so yeah, but I think more patterns, I'd say. If I was to fall on one side, I'd say more patterns than the sparring.
Yeah, and it's like, so I suppose often as well, like you see kids and they're looking at like it's what they're winning at is what they want to go with, you know. But sometimes it might be even just what you enjoy, and often like that, like you said, when you were younger, you preferred sparring, and then it switches over the
Yeah.
pattern. It can change if you just stick with it. You know, it's not necessarily if you get if you get caught up too early in, oh, this is what I'm good at, then you know it sometimes doesn't work out like that.
I think there's also a lot of longevity in the patterns. If you see a lot of people come and go and Taekwondo at a very high standard, and they're good at sparring, but 9 times out of 10 they're not great at the patterns. So they love the sparring, and then obviously they go training, and there's probably a lot of, if they've got an older instructor, for example, and they just do patterns, and they're probably just sort of gritting their teeth getting through the patterns, but then love it on the sparring. And you see that they sort of come and go in different martial arts. Those are people who are passionate about the patterns. Those are the ones who end up being the masters and the grandmasters later on, I think, just because they just love the art for what it is, and the sparring is just a part of that. So I'm happy with that. I enjoy the pattern side of it, because I think that's what gives you that longevity in Taekwondo, certainly. But the flip of that is that there's a lot of people that would turn into the patterns when they're a bit older, because it just keeps you going, keeps you attending, and they don't want to do the 360 spins all the time when they're over 40. No doubt we will be, but we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. When did you start? When did you open your own club? Then when did that kind of come about?
So I've been teaching for 9.5 years. Well, yeah, 9 years and a bit. And I got to this stage where I thought I was just getting a bit stagnant in my training. I was showing up to nationals. I was not really sort of putting the effort in that I needed to. Still getting the result, but I wasn't really sort of happy with how I was performing. And I felt like I was getting to that age. I was like 24, where I was just showing up to training after working long days, sort of dragging yourself to training. And then I thought something had to change. And I just thought I need to teach. I need to start teaching. And there was a school local to me in the next town that the instructor was moving away, and his school was coming available. And I thought, this is perfect timing. I was a little bit negative about my whole training, and I was a bit down, and probably within myself and just Taekwondo. And I thought, I need to teach. I need to start getting out there and spreading some knowledge. And I probably was a bit arrogant, was probably the term, a bit ignorant as well. I just expected that class to be handed to me just because of who I was. Young guy, good competitor. And he moved away, and I got the phone call saying that they've decided to give the school to somebody else. And it was like getting haymakered. Like, I was just like, oh man, that's it then. I'm gonna have to quit Taekwondo. I can't be able to train anymore. That was my opportunity to teach, and I was real down about it. And then I just decided, rather than waiting for an opportunity to be presented to me with a school which was being passed over, I just thought, right, let's go this way rather than upwards in terms of towns. Let's go, what's the next town in this direction rather than upwards. And there's a town called Wantage, and I just thought, well, they're going to have a leisure centre. And this was at the time where and I hated it. It wasn't for me. Hated it. Just wanted to get off the building site. And I thought I should be a full-time instructor. I thought that. I was like, I'm good enough to be. I should be one. Therefore, I'm going to be one. That was like my mindset. So I just picked up the phone and phoned up the leisure centre. And I said, I want to start teaching martial art. What availability do you have? And they said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, fully booked. We give you Saturday morning. And I was like, oh, it's not ideal. I need more than that. But I thought I'd take it. So they I signed up for 12 weeks, like 3-month contract with them. And they said, right, you start in 4 weeks. And you put the phone down. I was like, right, okay. So I was on a dump. I remember it now. I was on a dumper truck thinking, right, I'm going to start teaching in 4 weeks' time. I better start telling people about this. So I quickly went home, made my own like Word document, PowerPoint poster, printed a couple off, just started flyer dropping around Wantage, just fully expecting everyone to be like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Would love to come along. And word of mouth spread, and I showed up to the class. It was like, I teach next week. So I showed up to the class, and there was 6 people there, 2 of which were, one was my mum, one was my stepdad, and one was someone who used to train in Taekwondo before, just passing in the street, and I just got chatting, and he said he'll be along. Didn't think he'd show up, he did. Someone else was, is now my England teammate called Chris Dudman. He showed up, but he was tiny. He must have been about 11 at the time. So I taught the class, thought, okay, it's not what I expected. No one else showed up that I thought, like no other local people showed up. And the following week, there was only one person there. It was my stepdad. And I was thinking, this isn't for me. Like maybe I'm not cut out for this. And he was late as well. So for the first 15 minutes of my second ever class, I was the only one in the big sports hall because no one else wanted to book it on a Saturday morning. So I had the whole sports hall and I was on my own. Like I was single at the time, just drove there, put my bag down, just looked in this big empty hall and I was like, so this is me then, is it? This is the dream, is it? Everyone's gonna, but I knew there was 2 other full-time Taekwondo classes in that same hall. So I was like, I'm competing with people who are already established, so of course no one's going to show up to me. But there was a couple of people who sort of doubted me and said, didn't think you had it in you. I bet you'd quit after a couple of weeks. Then I thought, I ain't doing it. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep showing up. So I got more flyers made up and I went out 8 hours every day and flyer dropped every house in the town, went to the schools, signed up with schools. And my class has grown from strength to strength every year. And I now, through how I teach my classes, I've got over 100 students. And I never take it for granted because I have been there in that empty hall with just me and my stepdad 15 minutes later. So I was actually paying him to teach because I didn't charge him training fee. I had to pay for the hall. So I was paying him to teach him Taekwondo. And I think it's that perseverance. I think the epitome of perseverance is when you feel like you can't get any lower with that. You just go, right, it's going to keep going at it, keep working at it, just don't let it defeat you. So it was negative for pretty much my first year or 2 years of teaching. It was tough, cost me money. I had less students than the hall fee was. But I was like, I'm not stopping, I'm keep going. And now I'm so proud of my class. The students that's been produced from there, the support from the parents, how well they do national competitions. I've got international competitors with me now. That's crazy. I've had students that have been training with me I've got a student called Sean McIntyre who trained with me since he was like 14 and a half. And I still see him as that 14 and a half year old, but he's now like 19. And he got selected on the same England team as me. So he's my teammate and my student. So that's great. That's awesome. I love that. So that's quite unique to have someone in that situation. And we're the same weight. So we've competed against each other a couple of times. And I think it's 2-1 to me, I think. So as long as I can keep that notch, I'm sure he's going to overtake me at some point, but I can keep knocking him off that perch while he just keeps trying to take I'll pass the torch one day, but not quite yet.
Yeah. It's great. I suppose that goes back to even, like you said, when you just even started, you just kept showing up. So like that's maybe that started there as well. Like you had seen it. Just keep showing up where it can go.
Don't let it beat you. And like I say, it's that perseverance of it all. You just show up next week and go, right, how many this week? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the following week, right, okay. And then it was like, oh, my cousin might want to do it. And then a parent was walking past the hall, see what you're doing. And then just growing from there. And I've learned a lot from that, because I quit my job to do it. I didn't just, I told my boss, I'm stopping this and I'm doing this full time. So I stopped my job. I was so foolish. And I showed up to the empty hall with no students. I was like, what have I done? But so it's a sort of matter of just, you have to survive with it. There was no choice. I didn't want to go back on that building site. So that was my motivation to go, no, I'm not. I'm making this work. And that was really like 9 years ago. Facebook was a thing, but there wasn't any of this Facebook marketing that's out there now. And I've learned an awful lot of like how to advertise and what to share and when exactly. So if I was to do it all again now, I'd do it a lot differently if I was to venture down the path of a full-time instructor, because I've still got a job now on top of my teaching and my training, and I've got to be a husband and a stepdad in there somewhere too, and see my family. It's interesting.
Yeah, I suppose you had to make those mistakes to see where I had to go. Actually, I just need to, if I just pause it there for 2 seconds. Yeah. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Just had to open the door. So yeah, with the club then, and obviously like when things kind of split, I suppose, between the ITF, have you always been in the same ITF you've been in, or have you kind of jumped about been in a number of different places? Or
so I've always stayed UKTA, which I guess if we call it ITFs. Well, I've not moved anywhere. From the age I was 6, the same training hall, the same DOBOC, same association, same ITF. It's been the same for me. It was an interesting time in 2002 when it was all separating, I guess we'll class it. It was an interesting one, because I guess that Puerto Rico 2002 was probably the last World Championships where there was only one World Championships. Now, you used to go to national championships after that year and see people showing up to your nationals with like England written on their back, and you're like, well, I'm in the England team. I don't know who you are. And so you're learning, well, what's all this? And then there's obviously the divide, we'll call it. But I have stayed to the same group, I guess we'll call it. Same association, same ITF. I've sort of dabbled in other martial arts for a little bit, but whilst continuing the Taekwondo, essentially. So I'm Taekwondo through and through. And I think I'm going to be until my legs don't work anymore, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you started some kickboxing classes as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So I trained kickboxing for a little while. Trained with a group in Oxford, Century Martial Arts. And what the motivation for this was, I was just punching, kicking pads. It's like good fitness. Something different, I guess, as well. And when I was teaching, I was trying to get a lot more adults into the Taekwondo. Taekwondo at the moment, for where we are, there seems to be a lot of children, teenagers, few adults, but I wanted more adults. So I would speak to the parents who would drop their children off, and I'd say, come along to class next Tuesday, train with your child. A couple of them said yes, and then it was, what I was finding was parents would say, I would do Taekwondo, but I couldn't be doing with, and it was couldn't be doing with the patterns, couldn't be doing with the breaking, couldn't be doing with the discipline terminology. And then I was like, well, you strip all that away, what are you left with? Punching and kicking pads. What's that? And that's kickboxing. So so I've joined WACO Kickboxing, I'm an official WACO kickboxing instructor. And I run an official separate WACO kickboxing class, and it is filled with majority of the parents of my students. And what I'm finding is that I'm getting a lot of inquiries from older people who just want to go and punch and kick pads and not worry about the patterns and the terminology and the discipline, because people, I think, with their day jobs a lot, they're stressed, long days. It's quite difficult to them to say to people, you've got grading coming up. You need to tell me the meaning of this. You need to tell me how many stances in Korean. They're thinking, oh, I've got a meeting next week about like £1 million budget, and I've got to talk about Chonji. Like, you know, it's difficult, isn't it? So I think the kickboxing is certainly and it's so popular. I remember my first class was about a year ago, September 16th last year. I never thought I'd say this, but I hoped people would stop coming through the door. It was the opposite problem I had when I started my first class. I was just thinking, 15 people will probably show up. I advertised it just online. That was it. One Facebook post and share. That's it. I'm opening up this class next week. Here's my poster banner. Let me know if you're interested. And I had 38, nearly 40 people show up, and I was only expecting 15. And I remember thinking, if people keep coming through that door, the hall's not massive because I didn't book a big hall. I think I just want to be like sardines. So I went to the hall upstairs, which was a lot bigger, and the numbers have stayed. The numbers of are still massive, and obviously now the restrictions of with the kickboxing, I did lose a few people when we stopped training, and they did the Zoom sessions, but a lot of them were saying, not for me, not because they hadn't been doing it long enough to really be sort of like hooked into it. So I lost a lot of the kickboxers. So luckily now the restrictions on numbers, when I'm now back in teaching indoors, I'm within the restrictions. I'm fine with my numbers, but I'm pretty much turning people away now because legally, rather than like, yeah, sure, come along, you can't have that many people in a room now. So you're having turning people away for that reason, which again is a shame because you just want to. I just want to teach as many people as I can. So to say no to people is very strange. To say no, you can't come to my class. Come back in March next year when we're probably allowed. It's a strange one, but no, that's definitely picked up. And my plan was this year to do a kickboxing, a WACO competition. Again, a different discipline, something different, out your comfort zone. I think there's a lot to be said for that, rather than people show up to the same nationals. That's why I've gone and I've competed. In 2012, I won the Puma World Championships, they called it, which are with your association, the Puma in England, or with your side. It was huge championships. And I went to that because it was 20 minutes from my door. It was advertised. It was the other group. And it was like on a Saturday morning, I had some spare time, and it was on a Saturday and Sunday I was available. And I just entered it, got my pads, went in the car, drove and competed, and I won it. And what I didn't realise is that the weight groups were different from associations. Ours was under 71, which I competed at, and your side, maybe it's changed, I'm not sure, was under 70.
Yeah.
And I weighed 70 and a half because I was right at the end of the weight group. So they waved me in and they said, no, not this one. You're on that mat over there. And I was like, no, I'm not. I want to be on this one. And they're all giants. They were like, that's plus 70. I'm not in this group. And I stood on the mat and there was like 20 people that are all taller than me. And I was like, I should not be on here. But I ended up winning that. And it was so tough, such a high level of competition in the sparring. That's what I won the sparring. And there was a couple of people who went on to be selected for that fighting chance, that road to Rio. That were at that competition who I beat on that day. And so I've flitted in like competing in different groups, and I think there's a lot to be said for just getting out there and out of your comfort zone, go into as many competitions as you can. And that was what drew me to the kickboxing, because it was, you see some high level competitors on the WACO scene, like unreal, really, really good. And I think we're going to see it as a nation when it comes to the Olympics, with kickboxing getting their foot in the door, essentially. So I think kickboxing is definitely going to increase in popularity over the next couple of years with that avenue and that sort of possibility of people competing in the Olympics as well. I think there's WACO kickboxing, which is the Olympic representative. So it's going to go from strength to strength. So to get in now with them and have some crossover, have a couple of my students compete at their nationals, just to see how it got on. I think obviously the contact's a lot heavier, and in our side, what might limit us is we do have the 2-punch rule, which you might be aware of, which has its benefits, but I think has its negative side of it as well. That, you know, as a group, that our hands aren't as strong as you watch your world championships, and you see the sparring, and you think like we're very good with the hands and feet. So I think that's limited us because the reason they brought it in was to make it less scrappy, was their reasoning. But I think all the rule changes seems to be helping the North Koreans a lot more, because you watch the World Championships and you see Russia versus North Korea typically in the final, and the Russian would just poleaxe them with their hands and then finish off with a nice beautiful back kick or turning kick, and the Koreans didn't tend to have an answer for that. They would just be very spinny. So now we've got 2-punch rule, can't throw more than 2 punches without throwing a kick. You can punch, pause, punch, pause, but that's, you know, referee's going to pull you up on that. But you also have to throw in each round. Compulsory technique is called. It's called compulsory, but if you don't do it, you lose 2 points in each round. So you start with -2, and then you have to fire a 360 or a jump back kick, both in the air. They have to be in an air and have to be a legitimate attempt. You can't just both on the spot agree beforehand, right, we're going to spin and then carry on with the match. The referee will just say no. So it's made it harder for the referees, because it's put a lot more pressure on them, because it's up to their discretion if they feel like it's a legitimate attempt. So there's all these rules that are coming into place that, well, have been in place for a couple of years, which do help the Koreans when it comes to, well, not just the Koreans, but a lot of the countries that are very renowned for the fast-paced, quick spinning kicks, compared to the Eastern Bloc, let's say Russians, which are renowned for the heavy-hitting hands. But then the Russians are adapting too, and now they're just even more dangerous now, because they can do the compulsory techniques on top of the nice hands they've got too. So, but yeah.
Do you think those rules are effective?
Oh, sorry?
Do you think those rules are effective? Like, obviously, I understand the whole 2-punch rule, and obviously the idea behind the compulsory and the spinning technique, like to try and make it a bit more exciting and that, you know, adds a bit of flash. But do you think they're effective?
From experience, from doing it, competing in it, I think if it's made it, I think that's just what the whole point was. They make it more spectator friendly. That was the motivation behind it. Get more people looking at the screens thinking, wow, wow, wow. But you put yourself in the sparring match, you know you have to throw a compulsory technique. And from experience, if I'm sparring against someone, there's 15 seconds left in the round, and they haven't got their compulsory off, and it's worth 2 points, the sparring goes out the window, and you're just shutting them down, because they have to make a legitimate attempt. And if they spin and you shut them down, they don't get the kick off. It doesn't count. So you're not really sparring them to get the kicks away and be entertaining. You're sparring to the rule of not letting them spin. That's if I'm coaching somebody, I'm also telling them that, like, shut them down, don't let them get their spin off. And then the match just becomes about, when can I spin? When can I spin? And you can see it in their eyes that they're not even thinking about what to do other than I must spin. So I think it detracts in one way, and then it adds value in others. So it's it's a tough one to call. For me, it's different. It's irrelevant, because I'm renowned as being like a spin sparrer when I spar. So I'd throw 4 or 5 compulsories in a spar anyway, so it doesn't really bother me. But there have been times where I've thrown a couple and the referee said no, and you're like, how's that? That's cool. And then you're thinking of that, and then they come at you with their technique and you get tagged. So it adds an element to it, and it's the rule, I guess, and I think I can't see it changing. So we just got to get used to it, and Yeah, I'll be honest with you, the biggest rule change, and this might sound a bit strange, the biggest rule change that we've had, which has affected me personally the most, is, and people will probably disagree with this, is the inclusion, the headguards are compulsory. Now, what I noticed on, say, your side was you used to wear headguards quite early on, like years before we used to have to. Internationals and nationals didn't have to. It was optional. But I don't know what it is with a headguard for me. It just zaps me. It just zaps me of like who I was as a sparrer. And it's like if you get hit and the headguard moves, you get a point against you, but you've given away a couple more inches on top of your head that would have probably missed you. So you can't hide the fact if your headguard spins in front of your face that you've been tagged in the head. And if you like after like an exchange, if you're then changing your headguard, a judge who might think, did that score? And then they see you changing your headguard might say, well, it must have done. You know what I mean? So I think, but obviously it's for your safety. So it's a difficult rule to go against, to say, no, don't make it so safe. Take the headguards off, take the headguards away. But yeah, for me, I think out of the rule changes we've had since I've competed with no two-punch rule, no compulsory rule, and no headguard rule. And it's just, you're just having to adapt every sort of rule change. But with the two-punch rule, I was like, yeah, fair enough. The compulsory, like, yeah, I'll spin anyway. But I didn't even own a headguard. When they said that you had to wear a headguard, I was like, I didn't even own one. So I have to go and buy one. And then when you put it back on, you're like, this is weird. You know what I mean? It's strange. So I think out of all the rules that we've had change over the years, that's the one which I struggled to get on side of. But people will just say, well, we brought it in for your protection. But I still see people get hurt with headguards. So we need face masks on, maybe. So stop the nosebleeds, maybe. But But have you had any rule changes on your side? Has yours always been free flowing hands, or is there rules restrictions for you?
Yeah, no, it's been the same, free flowing hands, and that it used to be the 2 points for a jump and punch, but not like, I think that's gone as pretty much as long as I've been competing. Like not like since I was been competing at international level, like that's hasn't been a thing anyway. And the headguard, it was 2011 they first brought in the headguard rule. So like, but then there was a couple of years, because I think it was when you became 13, you didn't have to wear a headguard.
Yeah.
Because 13 then like plus, but then they brought it in then in 2011 that you had to wear a headguard. Like that, there was people at the start who like didn't like it. To be honest, for me it kind of depended on the headguard. There was some ones like the Adidas ones, or there was some of the like maybe top ones that weren't that nice. The top 10 one has been fine. Like I don't really train with a headguard on all the time, like too often. But then when I put it on, it's not something I take much notice of. But like I've kind of got used to it. Like that, I think people have just got used to it. Like people just, because it became a thing, more people just started wearing it, training with it, and you just got used to it. But definitely at the start, it was something that people didn't like. But I think as well, even, and one thing I do think with the headguard, it takes away a little bit from like the personalities to some degree. Like before you could always tell
who it is,
who was fighting, because you knew to look at it, you could see their face. Now it's kind of, you see them and you can't really see their face because it's the headguard. So you have to either, you nearly gather them from the style, the way they move, or you have to be able to see their name. Whereas before, you just knew, if you saw across an arena who was sparring, you knew straight away because you could see their face. Whereas I think maybe that could be something, like even now, like when you see a nice picture or something, it can be sometimes hard to tell, like who is that? Because whereas before, you could nearly tell straight away, like, because you could see their face a bit easier. But maybe that's something. But
maybe that's what self-consciously is. I just want people to know it's me kicking them in the face. I know that's me over there, not some random person. And I see what you mean, because when I've so on my website that I advertise on my classes, one of the things that I use is like video highlights of my sparring over the years, which you'd be surprised how much that works. The amount of times that parents say, he's watched your video, she's watched your video, they just love your sparring video and they just want to come along and do that. And I don't think any of those clips I've got a headguard in, and it's me, you can see, like, so yeah, it's like your identity. And then I'm sharing videos over the last couple of years of me sparring at nationals. And yeah, you've got to be really showing a clip of you doing something that's clearly you, because yeah, if you both got red head guard on and the same pads, you look very, very similar. So you're probably true. There is that identity that you might lose. And again, the spectator side things, that's what people tune in for when you see like the professional boxing and the MMA. Like you're watching it because to a certain extent of the sport, but you're watching to see Conor McGregor. If he had to come in with like a head guard on, and it would take an element of that away. But I don't think they'll change the rule because we say we want to look pretty on the ring, please. Can we?
Yeah,
not wear one.
Maybe not the best argument to get the headgear taken away.
Probably fall on deaf ears, that one. But I'm certainly not going to raise the argument. I'll just say, I'll put the head guard on, get on with it.
Yeah. But it's interesting, like you say, just with the change of rules, like sometimes what the spin, like the reason that the rule was brought in isn't the way it actually plays out in like practically. And because we've had that, like there's like a couple of small rule changes that you're kind of looking at, like why they were brought in doesn't necessarily translate to when like practically once the match actually takes place, it doesn't work like that. It ends up making the spar and the fight something completely different.
Yeah, I mean the compulsory technique isn't a rule for the team sparring, and the team sparring's renowned for being faster paced, just intense. Technique to a certain extent goes out the window. So I think that's probably why they they didn't implement it for the team, but you have to do it for individual. So they must have thought that it's a strange one because they brought it in to be like a spectator rule. And in my opinion, I think team sparring, if you put it on TV, people would just flicking through the channels would stop and go, what's this? Like that's like, it's eye-catching. The people on either side of the ring, the intense level, the people cheering, the crowd just love it. So I think, like, if anything, you'd think that would be where it would be implemented, other than individual sparring, where it's more game plan and strategy involved, where you can use the rule to your advantage. Like, trust me, if I've got, like I say, if they haven't got their compulsory off and there's 10 seconds to go, I'm disappointed in myself if I let them get their 2 points off. So, and if in team sparring, you're not even thinking about that. You'll just attack, attack, attack. Don't get hit. Attack, attack, attack. Breathe. Yeah, it's strange. Like I said, they brought it in to make it a bit more spectator friendly. But the most spectator drawing aspect of the Taekwondo in team sparring is not a rule. Because I see recently there's a video the TKD coaching did, ITF versus ITF, and they were saying that they're getting a compulsory off, but it's in the team event, but it's not a rule in the team. So people think that it is, but it's not. But if you're going to do one, maybe you do the other, or not have it at all. But for me, it wouldn't bother me because you get the most points for the spin, so that's the ones you want to score. And that is it's what Taekwondo is sort of turning into, really, isn't it? The spinning, fast kicking compared to the kickboxing, which is very, very one leg draw, good hands, back leg turning kick, back kick. There's not many 360 spinning reverse turning kicks in the kickboxing world. Well, you're finding an exchange. There's a lot more people doing one or the other that eventually it's going to be quite difficult to differentiate between a legitimate kickboxer and a legitimate Taekwondo. I think they'll be very, very similar. And all for it, because I think they're taking the strengths from it. And you see it when Jade Jones, when she implemented her like ITF style in the WTF world or WT world, she's Olympic champion. They didn't have an answer for her. So I think there's a lot to be said for drawing from the positives from other martial arts to make it the best that it possibly can.
Yeah. So what way does the system work then? Is it 1 point for a punch, 2 points for a kick to the body, 3 points for a kick to the head, or is
1 punch, 1 point for a punch to the head, 1 point for a punch to the body. It should be 2 to the head, but it's probably just 1. We still technically have the rule of 2 points for a jump punch, but it's in the education of the umpires. Some might give it, and some might not give it to 1. Some might give 2 points, some might give 1. But the compulsory technique if you score the compulsory technique, it's technically worth 7 because you get your 2 points for throwing it. And then you get 5 points for a 360 to the head. So if you get your compulsory, when the referee says Sijak, and then you throw a spiral back kick, for example, and it catches them in the face, you're 7 points up. Now, if you lose when you're 7 points up, then it's something that you've done drastically wrong. So you could win the match within the first 6 seconds, essentially. So there is a 7-pointer that you could get, which is crazy. But yeah, so you jump 180 to the body, 2 points, jump 180 to the head, 3 points, jump 360 to the body, 4 points, jump 360 to the head, 5 points. And then you add, but you only get the compulsory once. If you throw it and the referee says, yeah, that's good, then your score goes to 0 compared to their -2. Yeah, so you get the more points for the spins, and then you get more points for the jump spins, and then you get more points for the headshot. So it just goes up. And that's why you see a lot of people headhunting. But you find it sometimes all over the place, all different, and it's tough for umpires to score and at the same time. Was that 3-4? You find that some of them just give the 1 point for a spin. You know what I mean? Just to be like, yeah, that was a point. That looked like a point. So you've got to weigh it up to see. And again, this is where the coach comes into it. If they see the scoreboard and they see that the points aren't racking up as quick as they should be, but they're spinning, it's just not being scored correctly. But you just got to roll with it and just score more points, essentially. But yeah, the spinning one should technically count for more in the sparring.
Yeah, because I know, like, that just with us, like, there's been a couple of times, like, there's been some people who maybe say that it's very a lot of side kick into blitz, and like that. It's because that it works that way because if people are going to use the shots that are the most effective, the ones that are going to score the most. Like, there's a reason they get used the most is because they score the most. And so, like, there's, how do you make it more exciting? I would think that if you just increase the score potentially of a spinning technique, that could essentially increase the excitement, or but how much those techniques get used. But again, who knows? Like at the moment, it doesn't matter if it's a spinning technique or not a spinning technique for us. It's a kick to the head is a kick to the head for 3 points, and that's kind of it.
Toe kick or back kick is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just if it's a kick to the head, it's the same. It's all. So maybe a change to that. I think maybe it became 4 points or 5 points for a spinning technique. It could add more excitement or something, or more people will use those techniques. But like you say, with the rules, competitors use the rules the way they are, and they use the effective techniques to win.
Yeah. So I'm interested because I've never really sort of spoken to. I know people on, say, your side, should we call it, just for convenience. But what is your view of our side? If you was to say, when you see our side or what you've been told, what's your view of ours?
I think like the 2 punches often is maybe a little bit too little, I think, because oftentimes you maybe need like 3 or 4 punches in a row to get the person moving back so that the kick can follow after. Like, to only do 2 punches and kick isn't the most natural, I feel, because it isn't enough to get the person moving. You maybe need that 3 or 4 punches to get the person moving, and then you can follow and get a clean kick after. I think if you watch, that happens quite a lot. Like, it's after 3 or 4 punches where the person, you get them moving back, you get that momentum, you can get the kick to happen. And the spinning technique, like I said, I understand why it's there. It's there to make it look more like it's meant to be fan friendly, I suppose. But oftentimes you're just seeing it can sometimes be a lazy attempt to just throw the spin just to have it thrown and then carry on. If there was a bit, like, if it's used smart and it's used to land and it's an attempt to actually land and it could change the match, then that's something different. I suppose it maybe depends on the level that you watch to how you see how people use it. Maybe at a lower level, it mightn't be used as smart. It is just like a throwaway technique. And as you go up, it can be used a bit more effectively. But I think that's kind of it. Like, it's different. But apart from that, like, there's a lot of similarities then to what you see, because the scoring is, like, it's only small differences. So, like, a lot of the most effective techniques are going to be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, so I say there's we watch your side of your World Championships, and what my opinion, the fact that I say yours certainly over the last, well, I say 6-7 years, like, the standard has just gone through the roof with the caliber of competitors that you've that you see on the world and European stage, which is good to see. In which it's just a shame that there's the pool of talent that ITF has. Like, if we would just like one again, that we would hands down be such more of a force on like the Olympic scene. That if you see the WTF or the WT, yeah, it's a respectful martial art, but you do see that if you had two, the way I talk to people about it is, if you walk past like a TV store and you had WTF from one side, or WT on one side, and then like high quality as well, ITF on the other, you'll have a lot of people looking at the TV on the ITF side just because it's, I think, faster paced, there's more to it compared to the WT side, but that's the one that's in the Olympics. And I'm thinking, there's only one WT group, there isn't breakaway. With obviously our side, we've unfortunately had so many splitaways that, you know, we're sometimes fighting against each other rather than pulling all our talent in to show the world what like ITF like as a unit can be. Because I think is you see, even on the England setup, I've seen some names get on this podcast, and obviously I know them: Zach Espy, Matt Hadel. These competitors are like, I've not competed against Zach, he's not my weight, but you look at the England team that I'm part of in the past, we had competitors, we've got Aaron Jennings, Russell Jones, like Ricky DeWinton as well. If we was all just to be one group, it would be like such a force. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, our England team over the years has struggled to compete with the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Czechs, the Greeks, the Bulgarians. That's just the Eastern European. And you've got the North Koreans as well, and all the Kazakhstan, Turkmen. It's country after country that seem to be going strength to strength, and with like how everything is with the diluted factor of our side, that it's the same that we have on paper, in my opinion. Possibly we're all getting a bit old now, but maybe let's rewind 5 years. We had the talent pool to dominate, I guess, on the world and European scene. But it's just our demise of there's so many splits of it all. So it's a shame. But in terms of Ireland as well, how many is it the same for you? Because I think your Irish squad is a lot stronger than our Irish. It seems like some countries have got a very much stronger unit than others. Because I'm not sure what, like on your side, what Czech Republic are like, for example.
No, they wouldn't. You wouldn't even have a team out of them really. You might have one or two every now and again from like Czech Republic or that. But you hear like who people who would have competed when it was all one, and they say like, oh, the Czechs and like I think maybe even the Croatians, and like some of these countries were very strong when it was all one, but now you don't even see them at the championships because like they're all in another ITF and that, and you know, so it's a shame. Like
I say, like the Czechs. So my memory of the Czechs of when I was 2002, they were so intimidating. If they had if whatever they had in mind worked for me anyway, they shaved their head, bleached their head, put the Czech flag on their hair. So they were like 15-year-olds with bleached hair with the Czech flag. And then when team patterns, all got bleached hair with the Czech sort of flag essentially. So they have stayed, I guess, with us essentially. So they've been with us. So that was why I asked about Czech Republic, because they were very strong in 2002, and they've just continued to stay that level. So that's what I mean. There's some countries, and I think Ireland is one where your side is strong with you, and not so strong on our side. Czech Republic is strong on our side, not so strong on yours. But I think England has unfortunately sort of been a result of it being split here. You got 4 amazing competitors and 3 amazing competitors, and you think, Christ, if it was just one unit again, we would be like multiple world and European champions on the team front as well. In my opinion, I might be wrong, but it's just what I've seen from having competed with Matt and seen Zach Espy just destroy people.
Yeah,
Just
like you said, I have seen that myself. Just even on our side for the England team, like it goes, and it's no real disrespect to anybody, but the quality is of the like I suppose the sparring team is often up and down. Like it's some years it's strong, but then some years it's not, because obviously look, if it's not a funded sport, so other commitments can take over. So like that can happen anyway. But like you said, because the pool is so small, the quality goes up and down, and then like you're having the same problem as you said on your side then, of where the quality is up and down. Whereas you might have that consistency if you just bring it all together, So, yeah.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. No, probably not. But the ITF on our side, the World Cup was meant to be in October, and as I understand it, they were going to open that up to other ITF groups, which could have been interesting, and it could have allowed it could have maybe been the start of something like that, where you see some cross competition, if not, a joining of organisations at a high level. But if it's something, at least in competition, where you could have some crossover, maybe that could be something as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see. I think, let's say, nice to, even if you start small with like group seminars, you know what I mean? Just training sessions, because we, as an England setup, we get on well with each other. We had a England squad session where Master Leah organised, where we met up as one, and you'd be surprised what that brought out of you, because we was as a squad saying, well, we ain't going to let them out fitness us, and I'm pretty sure they'd have been saying the same thing. And when it comes to the sparring, it was like friendly rivalry, but you know what I mean, there is like the atmosphere there, but Christ, that would have brought the best out of us 100%, because there's that respect there too. So that's why it would be great if there was ever a combined. But it's nice that the coaching setup on both sides seem open to having joint sessions, which because it could be very, very, because when it first happened in 2002, like 2003, there was a lot of hostility, I think, towards either side. When did you start competing internationally?
I did my first black belt tournament as an international was 2008. We had the World Cup. The first time I would have went to like a European Championships was 2010. So I'm about 10 years.
10 years in. Yeah, so you've only known one, I guess, your side. It was so for me, it was a very strange time to be introduced to it whilst it was separating, because I didn't know what to do. I remember when it was all happening, I just knew that I was losing Master Leah as my coach. That's all I knew. I didn't know what I was, and it was horrible, because he was a great coach essentially. So it was a strange time, because you go to squad training, that's your coach, those are your teammates, and then all of a sudden, literally like the week after the championships, it was, you can't see them anymore, and it was surreal. So anyone, I guess, pumped 2005, 6, 7 onwards would have just obviously known what they were set into, but it wasn't that long ago that it was before then that it was all sort of splitting. And I think Master Leah tried, because he had his open, and I think it was 2012 in Brighton. Is that 2012? Because I know that he opened it to all styles as well. And unfortunately, I was injured at the time, so I couldn't. I'd love to have done it. And hopefully, before I hang my gloves up, there's a chance for me to. I'd love to do the Dutch Open, because I know that's a very high quality championships. You see that they've got their own page on Instagram of just that competition, and the standard of competitors there is second to none. So I'd like to throw my hat in the ring, because I'm 33. I've got a couple of years left in me, but I think I'd like to. It's why it's a shame this is all happening, because I think probably had a few more internationals in me, and it feels like the last couple are getting possibly taken from you, because from 32 you like feel fit and ready, got European Championships, you think, well, this could be my year. Like 32 is like probably, I think, one of your prime years, and it's just off, not happening, and then you're like, I'm 33 now. By the time the Euros comes around, I'm almost going to be 34. So you're like, there's a big jump between that age group that you're thinking, oh, am I going to be okay? So it's like it's a dodgy time. So you just want to make the most of it now, and get as many competitions in you as you can before your legs give in. But
I was not even thinking that today. It was kind of because we should have had, like, it's around that time you'd usually be looking at going to a tournament. Like, it should have been the World Cup in a few weeks, and not having had anything earlier in the year. It's kind of like, I don't know. I just had that feeling like I should be getting ready to go. So, like, you should be like, looking at is weight on point? Is when's the draw coming out? Like, there's different bits and pieces that you should be looking forward to going to some place for a tournament, and I haven't had that feeling in a good while now. Like, so it's a weird one, and especially
you're gonna for people to compete, sort of, especially 2 internationals a year, all that weigh-in, all that weight checking. There's going to be a lot of dieting happening in 2021. So anyone wanting to release a fitness plan, diet, 2021 is your year, because you'll have loads of people taking you up on it, because they're like, how do I cut weight? How do I diet? I can't remember. But I think, it's going to be a tough one. And you just hope that people stay injury-free when we do. I think that's slow and steady is certainly the way back. Because if they announce tomorrow, oh, we made a mistake, you can spar, by the way. I reckon there'll be hamstrings going all over the place and like back pulls because they haven't done it. So I think people will just be going straight in. So I think certainly when it comes to my teaching, my class, even when they say we're allowed to spar, I probably won't straight away. Just to ease them into it, because I know what it's like. You just want to go in two-footed probably and end up getting hurt. But we shall see. It's interesting.
Yeah. It's a challenge as well, though, because when you're told you can go back sparring, it's the first thing you want to do.
Yeah.
I know when we came back training, like I got to training the first night and wanted to have the gear on straight away. Like, right, let's go. But you can't. Like, you do need to ease yourself back into it. But but what people want to do is really put the pads on and go hit each other.
Getting a hint when they walk in, bow with their pads on. You're like, no. Need to stretch first and do the warm up. The gum shield. Hi, sir. I'm ready. But no, it's interesting. But I mean, like I say, the support that everyone's had, and it's tough. I mean, psychologically, as any instructor, you are thinking like, what do I do? Am I going to have any students? Are they all going to leave? So I think the support that students have shown instructors that I've seen is great, and I think that should continue. And the support that you get from around, like my wife, like just been so supportive of everything, like just making sure I'm okay, like psychologically, with everything that's going on. I say it's a massive help. Like the support network that anyone has is who you are, really, essentially. So she's learned how to learn to support me, certainly. Oh, that's the reason why I didn't meet her through Taekwondo. When we first met, we was like chatting about going on a date, essentially. And she realised how busy I was. Like, can we go out next week? I can, but I've got a competition. We'll go next week. Oh, I've got squads. It took about a month for me to like meet her. And that's why she got into Taekwondo, because she probably thought, well, I may as well go along to your class so I can actually see you. And then that's essentially it. So she's been very supportive. So I think having that, having support at this time, more than ever, is so important, because it's tough for everyone, because each sort of session, each week that you go on, you're like, is everyone going to be okay still? Like, we're still not sparring. You got some people in your some students that you can tell are only really doing it for the sparring, but they're still coming along. So we just got to keep spirits high with it all. But yeah, people, how they're adapting, how they're adapting their teaching styles. It's great to see when you see instructors just grabbing it by the horns and running with it. And he says the instructor for I-Kicks, Ross, I'm calling Scott. Ross, I see him online as well, and he must be exhausted, because he's been doing like every day online sessions, and now he's back in his unit. It's great to see him back in his unit. But you can just see the exhaustion in instructors' eyes, where they've got to keep so many plates spinning with so many students happy and out of their comfort zone. So it's really good to see. Really good to see the positive spirits that people are showing, and it's just going to make us stronger characters from it all. Because, like I say, before you know it, hopefully we'll be sparring again. Hopefully,
Yeah. But I suppose, look, before we finish up, I tend to ask, if you had to pick a last question, if you had to pick a favorite fighter, it could be Taekwondo, it could be any sport, it could be a boxer, it could be mixed martial arts, MMA. If you had to pick a favorite fighter to watch, who would you pick?
So I've listened to your podcast, so I see that you asked this. So I've been thinking about it since we've been chatting. I was like, who would I? And it changes on a daily basis. There's so many to pick from. I think outside the world of Taekwondo, the person who draws my eye the most, if I know that they're competing or there's advertisement, is Michael Venom Page from Bellator. His cocky style is eye-catching, but his cocky style with backing it up as well. You want him to showboat. He does a bit of a dance on the ring and then does a 360 back kick to their face, and they're asleep for a minute and a half. And he does it in the next fight, and his opponent knows they're going to do it. When he's competing, he's like hands down the most entertaining. I just think he's such a great talent. And I was going to say Mike Tyson, but I know that's been said recently, so I couldn't copy and paste Sean there. So, and so I think I'll go with Michael Venom Page for outside of Taekwondo. In Taekwondo, there was someone that I grew up admiring, and I had the honour of competing. I say the honour; he had a good tussle. Was Neil Ernest when we competed against each other, and I was like a rabbit in the headlights. It was in a team sparring. I hear Matt mention this team event that was a couple of years ago at the XL Arena. It was huge. It was huge event, and it was a team, and you had to match up your weights. And I was the same weight as Neil Ernest, and I was like, "That's Neil Ernest." I was like 14 years old, and he was the one that was just ripping people to shreds, like in the internationals and the nationals, and just seeing him throw his downwards kicks, his 360s, and it was rapid, and he was so good. And when it was like, right, next up is the under 71, and I was like, that's me, and that's Neil Ernest over there. And I was a bit like a rabbit in the headlights when the referee was like, see Jack. So we had a bit of a good back and forth. And I was thinking, oh, I'm doing all right here. I'm getting the better of him here. And then I think the mistake I did was catch him with a shot and reset his nose, or caught his nose off. And he just tore me to pieces after that. He for sure, Neil Ernest. I woke Neil Ernest up, I think, literally, and that was a mistake. But he was someone I used to look up to and think a lot of when I was younger. So to compete against him was a privilege. And he doesn't even know this, but he put me in hospital once. He came to visit our squad training, and he's really good friends with someone who's really good friend. He was my England coach at the time. Master Philip Taverner was my England coach at the time, and Neil Ernest and Master Taverner were teammates. So when Master Taverner was taking a session for us, Neil Ernest come along to our squad training sessions. Now, I was like telling everyone, I was like, that's Neil Ernest, like he's great at sparring. Because there was like that split still, it had been a few years, there were some people who didn't know who he was. So when I was sparring him, I was about 22, I think, and I was just in that horrendous, like, cocksure of myself age, thinking, I'm going to get the better of him. And then we're sparring away, and no head guards on, which is why I don't like head guards after this. It really saved me, but I caught him with a couple of kicks, and I was like, I'm getting the better of Neil Ernest. It was only in training, but it was like the best day ever. And then he just lured me in with a side kick. I've done a side kick, and he spun, and he caught me in the temple, the reverse turning kick. And I've never been knocked out. So I went down, and everything went black, and I just thought, no, don't be knocked out. I stood straight up. And he said, are you okay? And I was like, yes. But I was blinking. Every time I was blinking, there was like lightning bolts going through my eyes.
And I was like, this isn't good. And then I was like, oh, give me a second. And I just ran to the corner, and I was physically sick, like a lot. And I was like, well, that's not a good sign of being sick after being hit in the head. So I got taken to hospital. Well, I said, see you later, I'm off. Went, got lift home, and then got home. My mum was like, you okay? I was like, I think so. Can't hear much. And so he took me to hospital, and the doctor's like, yeah, you've got a concussion. I was like, so I had all these cuts down my. So even though he put me in hospital and he's beaten me, someone I admire is my favourite sparrer is Neil Ernest. I think he's an absolute legend and a really nice guy as well. That always helps.
Yeah. Yeah, definite legend. Like, obviously, he competed, I suppose, in our side a lot after the split. But yeah, definite legend of what. One of my, I probably put him in. He probably my top 5 of all time favorite fighters. I probably have him in. Yeah, he was exciting to watch and a great fighter, tough.
And he's a great coach as well. You see his students that are being produced, and when he comes to our nationals, you see that they are also very, very good. So it's one thing being a good competitor, and that's where I try and sort of, my motivations are now to produce someone very, very good and put a lot of passion into that. And so for his students to also be very, very good, it shows that he's not just keeping all his knowledge in and not saying, no, I'm the greatest, you're not going to be. And my mentality is, I want my students to be better than me, and it sounds like he has that same mentality too. So there might be a lot more mini Neil Ernest about in about 10 years. So God help us all.
Be right. Yeah. I'll hopefully try and get him on here soon as well. It'd be good to have him on and have a chat with him.
Great. And if you get Master Lear on as well, I see his name get mentioned quite a lot, and he's he'll have some stories, and he's got so much respect. He's getting respect from all over the place. So it'd be great to have him. It'd be great to listen to Master Lear, and obviously Neil Ernest as well.
Yeah. Right. I think we'll leave it there. Thanks a million for coming on. I've really enjoyed the chat. Really enjoyed hearing your story and your side of, I suppose, the another ITF group, and things are operating there. So
mates around there. We're all one group, mate. That's all fine. All family.
Yeah. So take care, and hopefully you'll be back sparring soon in the gym.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll see you maybe Dutch Open, Holland Cup next year. You never know.
Yeah. Hopefully. All the best.
See you, mate. Bye then, Jamie. Bye-bye.